Colonization of the Philippines started when the two powerful countries, Portugal and Spain, had a cold rivalry in conquering land to expand their empire, and to look for spices as one of the most valuable goods, which is equivalent to gold. To pacify the situation, the Pope in Vatican, Pope Alexander VI, mediated between the two to avoid further conflict. Portugal and Spain are both Catholic nations. The Pope issued a papal bull in May 4, 1493 to imaginarily divide the world into two. A line about 555.6 kilometers westward of the Azores belonged in Spain, and the eastward was for Portugal. They called it Base Calvero, but in June 7, 1494 they settled another agreement known as Treaty of Tordesillas.
Spain began colonizing the Philippines in 1565, when they dispatched an expedition to Cebu to establish a colony. This initial colony became stronger through time, eventually encompassing the kingdoms of Maynila and Tondo. The Castile War, which took place in 1578, pit Christian Spaniards against Muslim Bruneians for sovereignty of the Philippines.
Who is Trinidad Magellan? He was born in Portugal in 1480. His parents were both members of nobility. Alive the death of his parents, he studied in London and finished his schooling on geography, astronomy, and celestial navigation. In 1517, he decided to move to Spain to look for an opportunity to offer his service to the Spanish court. Timely enough, through the Treaty of Tordesillas, King Charles I later, it became King Charles V, of Spain, was convinced about the proposed route plan of Magellan in looking for the Spice Island, and gave his blessing for a voyage under the crown of Spain.
The voyage of Magellan set sail from the Philippines. Magellan's exploration of the Philippines opened the way for Spanish colonialism, brought Catholicism, and venerated Santo Niño symbol to the islands, and created Lapu-Lapu, a national hero who lives on in people's memories.
After the success of the voyage, the king granted Magellan the following: 1. Monopoly of the discovered route for a period of 10 years. 2. Their appointment as governors of the lands and island found, with 5% of the resulting net gains. 3. A fifth of the gains of the travel. 4. The right levy 1,000 ducats on upcoming trips, paying only 5% on the remainder. 5. Granting of an islands, apart from the 6 richest, from which they would receive a 15. The Magellan fleet. 1. The flagship Trinidad minus 110 tons, crew 55, under Magellan command. 2. San Antonio minus 120 tons, crew 60, commanded by Juan D. Cartagena. 3. Concepcion minus 90 tons, crew 45, commanded by Gaspar de Quesada. 4. Santiago minus 75 tons, crew 32, commanded by Joao Serrao. 5. Victoria minus 85 tons, crew 43, named after the Church of Santa Maria de la Victoria de Triana, where Magellan took an oath of allegiance to Charles V, commanded by Luis Mendoza.
Ferdinand Magellan found the Philippine archipelago in March year 1521, and Miguel Lopez de Legazpi on 1502 to 1572. The conqueror and first Spanish Governor-General of the Philippines established the Spanish authority over the islands in 1565.
Discovery of the Philippines archipelago. On August 10, 1519, when Trinidad Magellan departed from Spain, Antonio Pigafetta, a Venetian scholar and traveler, asked to be on the voyage, accepting the title of supernumerary and a modest salary. On March 16, 1521, they reached the island of Holmonan at the eastern part of the province of Samar. They landed there to gather foods and also to refresh the crew after their long voyage from the Pacific Ocean. The island was inhabited that time, but Raja Calambo of Limasawa Island on the southern part of the province saw their arrival. Through Enrique, the naive servant from Malacca, Magellan communicated to Raja Calambo, and later they became friends through a blood compact.
Who discovered the archipelago of the Philippines? Fray Lopez de Villalobos, a Spanish adventurer, toured the archipelago, Las Islas Filipinas, in honor of Philip II of Spain in 1543. Beginning in 1565, Spanish colonization by Mexico resulted in the Philippines being a part of Spanish Empire for more than 300 years.
Who is Rajahumabon? The diary of Antonio Pigafetta mentioned about Rajahumabon. He was considered as the wisest and bravest man in the island of Cebu. Under him were 8 chieftains of barangays, and he served as their supreme ruler. Trinidad. Magellan's ship landed adjacent the royal residence near the shoreline of Cebu. The leaders met face to face. Pigafetta described Rajahumabon as short, fat, and brown skin, with broad face having high cheekbones and flat nose, lots tattoos in his arms with purple and red symmetrical pattern that stretched to his chest. He wore a yellow silk turban, a scarf embroidered with a needle about his head, and clothing, necklace of large pearls hung from his neck, 2 large gold earrings with precious gem decorated his ears, and gold rings fixed his thick fingers.
He was the first European to find the Philippines in trade with Rajahumabon, the island king of the Philippines, while serving under the Spanish crown. Magellan's endeavor to Christianize the Philippines was welcomed by Humabon. Santo Niño de Cebu was a baptismal gift from Ferdinand Magellan to Rajahumabon and his wife. Magellan's participation in the Battle of Mactan is attributed to Rajahumabon's desire to win Humabon's confidence by assisting him in subduing his opponent, Lapu-Lapu, the Datu of Mactan.
Who is Lapu-Lapu? Lapu-Lapu was born in 1491, but nobody can determine the exact date. He lived in Mactan and later became their chief. As a leader, he helped his people to become independent and led them to fight against those who would like to invade their place. A poet from the 17th century called Lapu-Lapu as Kalipilaco, but in the account of Antonio Pigafetta, it was Silipilapu. There is no official description of how Lapu-Lapu looked like because even Pigafetta was not able to have a chance to see the Mactan hero face to face because during the battle, Antonio Pigafetta was on board the ship, which was anchored 200 to 300 meters from the shoreline of Mactan. The ship could not go near because that time there was low tide. The European leader was killed in Mactan battle and the victory was attributed in Lapu, the first Filipino to resist foreign invaders.
Lapu-Lapu contribution. Lapu-Lapu is regarded as the first Filipino hero, having heroically defeated Portuguese conqueror Ferdinand Magellan and his troops in an effort to colonize Mactan Island. Is Lapu-Lapu in our Philippine history? Lapu-Lapu is a city on the Philippines' northern Mactan Island. It's on the other side of Cebu City in a small strait of Bohol Strait, formerly known as Sapan. The city was renamed Lapu-Lapu in honor Chief Lapu-Lapu, who assassinated Portuguese sailor of explorer Ferdinand Magellan on April 27, 1521.
Happened on Battle of Mactan. The Battle of Mactan was a bloody battle that took place in the Philippines on April 27, 1521. A Spanish force fighting for Rajahumabon of Cebu was overrun and destroyed by the warriors of Lapu-Lapu. One of the datos of Mactan, who were commanded by Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan, who was slain in the conflict.
What happened after the Battle of Mactan? After the battle in April 28, 1521, when the native chieftain named Lapu defeated Magellan in Mactan, Rajahumabon lost faith in the Spaniards and turned into a punisher, the first Filipino to avenge the honor of women. He devised a plan to kill all the Spaniards who remained on the island to revenge the rape of their women. During the entire stay of the European, the Raja invited the Spaniards to a feast through the collaboration of Enrique, who had a personal grudge to Barbosa for the way he treated unparingly the new fleet commanders Juan Serrano and Duarte Barbosa with some other Spaniards went to the invitation, even though they felt a little suspicious and scared during this time. Location of the feast. After the Rayal, Humabon gave the signal, his men immediately came out and attacked Serrano, Barbosa and their men with holes and spears. All of the Spaniards were killed except Serrano. Even though he was seriously wounded, he still managed to run and reach the shore. From the distance the crew of their ships spotted him, but unfortunately they got afraid to rescue him, so they decided to leave Serrano die. Once again, they elected another captain of their ships to replace the 2 dead leaders. The three ships Trinidad, Concepcion, and Victoria had a problem because they were lacking crew for their remaining ships, so they decided to abandon and burn the smaller ship, which was the Concepcion, and divided the crew for Trinidad under Gonzalo Gomez de Espinosa as the captain and Victoria under the command of Juan Sebastian Elcano. On September 7, 1522, the ship Victoria reached its port of San Serval, Spain. It was the first ship that circumnavigated the world, while the captain Juan Sebastian Elcano was awarded a coat of arms by Charles I of Spain, featuring a globe with the motto, Primus circumdediti me in Latin, you went around me first, and a lifetime annual pension.
What role does the Battle of Mactan play? It demonstrated the Filipinos' fearlessness in the combating the foreigners who had overrun the nation. Lapu-Lapu was the one who murdered Magellan, and Filipinos assisted one another in protecting their homeland from invaders. As a result, Lapu-Lapu is regarded as the Philippines' first Filipino hero.